And so you are an independent rapper.
That's correct.
And what does that mean exactly?
I'm 100% independent. So it means that I own my own company. I make all the creative and business decisions. There's nobody above me who can veto anything or say, hey, you can't put out that song or you can't do that or whatever. I just run it. I'm mostly a one-man band.
And I read that you were #1 on the Kickstarter.
Oh yeah. So on Kickstarter, I've done 3 projects on Kickstarter now. But yeah, I've got some of the highest funded music projects, particularly my last one, on the platform. Not just in the UK, but actually globally. I think my most recent project, I think, was in the top. I want to say it was in the top 50 projects ever in Kickstarter history, in music projects. But yeah, I'm the highest funded rapper, hip-hop artist, UK-based hip-hop artist on Kickstarter.
Really?
Yeah.
And so your rap music, is it clean music?
Yeah, it's clean, man.
It's clean.
Yeah.
And how old were you when you decided to go out on your own, and why did you make that decision?
Sure. So I released my first album when I was 19. I studied at Oxford University, and that's where I started rapping.
Yeah, I heard you went to Oxford with the white folks.
With white folks. If you're doing anything in England, you're going to be mostly with white folks, man. It's not
you sound white too.
I sound white?
Yeah.
Interesting. What does that mean?
But anyway, how old were you when you decided to go, I'm going to do my own thing? And
18,
why
19.
did you make that decision?
18, 19.
Really?
I was independent from the very beginning.
And what made you, it's definitely the right way to go. What made you decide to go that way?
Because I don't need anybody's approval to put out my music or to do what I want to do. I was like, why should I spend all this energy trying to chase and appeal to all these record label executives or whatever it is? It was like, look, I can grow my own fan base and build my own audience, just like I still do now. Everything I do is still independent, despite how much stuff has grown. And that was why. So it was both, it was somewhat ideological, as in I want to control things for, creatively, financially. I understand, okay, in the short term, it might be harder for me to grow and build my audience, but in the long term, I mean, if you look at the music industry, typically artists will be getting 8 to 12% of of a lot of their earnings, if they've even recouped. With me, it's like, okay, I'm getting 100% minus the costs.
Wow.
So it made sense from both a business perspective and from a creative perspective. As an artist, you want to be able to express yourself. If you've got someone standing over your shoulder and saying, oh no, change this, or you can't do this, or you can't release this song, or you should put this, it's defeated the whole point of being a musician, as far as I'm concerned.
I noticed that most, not all, of course, but most human beings don't feel that way. In them, they don't have that belief that they can do it just as well as some other man to do it. They don't have that. Why is that?
I think because it's easier to have an external locus of control than an internal one. If you have an internal one, you're a much more powerful being, and you're going to end up becoming much more successful because you take ownership and responsibility for your wins, your losses, your actions, your words, your decisions. If you always blame it or have the ability to blame it on somebody or something external to you, whether it's real or fabricated, then that appeals to people, because it means you don't ever have to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, okay, my bad, I made a mistake, or I did something wrong, or maybe this is my fault. If you can blame it on someone else, then it's always easier. Like I was a little bit late to this appointment.
And I knew you would be.
Right? I didn't plan to be, but I could have left earlier. And I should have left earlier. So I could say, and I have said like, my Uber canceled, and then the second one couldn't find me, and that is true. But also, I could have thought, okay, maybe that'll happen. Let me give it an extra half an hour. So that's a sort of very simple example of those two different mindsets, right? And both everybody, like if you're late something or this, or whether it's major stuff or minor stuff, we always seek to not think, okay, what was the thing I could have done different?
Absolutely.
We think, okay, what were the external factors which affected that? And when people focus on that all the time, then they disempower themselves.
That's deep.
Yeah.
Amazing. I had this bet going with my producer when I saw that you were black.
It's so funny because actually I'm normally on time all the time.
Oh, yeah?
Like it's actually rare for me to be late.
We just
not a
finished one
standard
show
thing.
before you,
Yeah.
and I saw that you were black. I told my producer,
He's gonna be late.
our producer, he gonna be late.
I specifically make a point of being on time, partially because of that. Like, I know that there's that stereotype, so I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go out of my way, like particularly, I'm like, let me be 5 minutes early for everything.
Right on.
But yeah, this time around it didn't work.
Yeah, I understand things do happen that time, you
Yeah.
know, but you still have to take the responsibility. So my producer said, no, he's a professional. He's not gonna be late. I'm like, no, he's black. I said, I may not know my flowers, but I know my black. So I gotta ask you, do you believe, it's a mess over here, right? Do you believe that white supremacy exists?
No,
You do not?
no,
Right on. And why don't you believe that?
because it doesn't. Like, I mean, like.
You're right, man. And I tell black people that all the time. I'm like, there's no such thing as white supremacy. It's just that you believe it.
Yeah.
And because you believe it, you accuse people of being that way.
Yeah.
And it's just not true. And it's holding you back in life because what blacks are saying, those who believe that, is that white people are superior to them and they believe white people can do things that they can't do. And it's just not true.
No, I mean, why would you, if you believe in white supremacy, doesn't that make you a white supremacist, right? Like, why would you believe in that? It's a strange concept to me.
Yeah, it's weird, man.
It's weird. It's very weird. It's very weird.
And so I got to ask, in dating, have you dated a white woman?
Plenty.
Plenty.
Hey, I'm an honest man.
And how about you dated black women?
No.
Wow.
I'm being honest. I
Yeah.
actually haven't.
And why not?
A lot of it is demographics.
Oh,
Like I grew up in England. Like I spent my formative years in England, and the UK is, of course there's black people in the UK, but it's way less diverse than it is, say, even compared to the US.
oh, I see.
And also the schools I went to and the areas I was in, it's not like I was even in London or Birmingham or something like that. I was in very white areas.
Yeah.
So because to me, racial factor, skin color is not like an important thing. It's just like, whatever. Like if I click with someone and we get on well, I'm not gonna kind of go out of my way specifically to,
Right.
date someone or not date someone because of anything to do with skin color. It's more kind of a numbers game, just like if I do an event in a certain area, if I do an event in Nigeria, it's going to be a lot of black people. If I do an event in some small town in England, like it's going to be a lot of white people. But I don't care, man. I honestly just, all of that stuff, from
Right
day
on.
one, I just don't care. I just see people, man.
There you go.
I can tell what people look like.
How
but it doesn't matter.
about you dated Mexicans and Chinese and all that?
Mexican, no, like
They don't
you
have
don't
Mexican
really have
in the UK, right?
No,
You guys are lucky.
no comment.
No, I'm playing. So, how about racism? Black people believe that racism exists. What do you think about that?
I believe that racism exists. I know you have the concept that it's just you just call it hatred, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's either good or evil, right or wrong.
Yeah.
And you find that in all people. You either find good or evil. But why do you believe racism exists?
I mean, by definition, if you consider it just by its literal definition, it exists in terms of mistreating or being prejudiced or hateful towards someone based off their race, skin color, ethnicity. That's something that does exist. I think a lot of it is just a manifestation of tribalism and hatred, as you've said, because this doesn't necessarily have to be across racial lines at all,
Yeah.
right? You can, and you see this a lot if you travel the world and you've been to and are aware of what goes on in different countries. I mean, there's conflicts going on in Africa, in the Middle East, in Asia, so on, with people who, I mean, even what happened in Ireland, with people who literally look the same, right?
Yeah.
In my own lifetime, there was to take an extreme example, the Rwandan genocide, right? To an outsider, the
That's
Hutu and the
right.
Tutsi, can we tell the difference? I'm from Nigeria, right? You got Boko Haram in Nigeria up in the north. committing terrorism primarily against other Nigerians, against other black people. You get this all over the Middle East. Vast majority of Islamic terrorism is directed at other Muslims. With a lot of this stuff, it's a manifestation of tribalism, and tribalism can hit along a lot of different lines, and skin color or nationality is one of them. But it can be political ideology, it can be religion, it can be, anything. It can be anything. It can even be very minor things.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the moment, they're trying to turn the vaccinated against the unvaccinated, as if those are some distinct groups. Like it's wild.
Yeah.
People are tribal.
And speaking of that, there was this woman by the name of Nicki Minaj.
Nicki Minaj. Yeah.
You heard of her?
Yeah, of course.
She said that, and paraphrasing, but she said that, it should be up to you to wear the mask or take the vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
And she gave this example of her friend or somebody who took it and their balls fell off. And, well, not fell off.
Swole up, yeah.
They wish they had fallen off. No. And she got in trouble. People hated her for saying that. What do you think about that?
I think it's ridiculous, but it shows where society is. Because what she said, I mean, look, I don't know about the veracity of her saying that person she knows had those side effects, but the notion that you should be free to choose what goes into your body, whether that's a medicine or a food or whatever, is like January 2020, everybody apparently agreed with that or claimed they did, right?
Yes.
And now, due to this 18 months of brainwashing and propaganda, all of a sudden people are acting new and are being the media and politicians attack dogs and lapdogs and going at each other based on this stuff. And it's insane to me. I mean, now in certain cities, states, and countries where you're literally openly discriminating against people and segregating people based on whether or not they've taken a particular shot. I mean, it's madness.
Why do you think the people put up with it?
I think a lot of it is fear. I think it's fear. When people...
Of what?
So there's been a huge global fear campaign for the past over 18 months now. This is the reality of it. If you turn on the TV or the radio in almost any city in any country right now, what do you hear? It's COVID, vaccines, fear, Delta variants, deaths, hospitalization, right? It's just, and this has been running for over 500 days straight.
Yeah.
So initially it started out with just a fear of the virus. But they've now manipulated that to, they use that to create fear of other human beings.
Yeah.
When people are socially distancing and they're wearing masks and they're doing all this weird stuff, it's because people have been trained to view other people as sick until proven healthy, rather than healthy until proven sick, and not just sick, but infectious.
Good
right?
point,
So what
man.
are people saying?
Yeah.
People are now saying, oh, well, you could have it. You could be sick. I mean, that's been the case our entire lives, right? Someone could be sick. Someone you guy could have a flu. Technically it's possible, but no one was running around just running under the assumption that they themselves and everybody else was potentially carrying some lethal virus, even if there's no evidence at all or reason to think that they are. But it's been a mass brainwashing of billions, if hundreds of millions at least, if not billions of people.
Yeah, that's
and
amazing.
It's disturbing. And when people are afraid, they don't think logically, they don't think rationally. And also, when there's a threat, the natural thing to do as a human being with a threat is to avoid or attack it.
Yeah.
And this is what's going on now. So that's how you're now getting people attacking or wanting to punish the so-called unvaccinated and treat them as almost some lower class of human being, because they've been manipulated to see them as a threat. Logically, if you just think of what's going on, there's no science behind that. There's no logic behind it. It doesn't make sense. Right? Why someone who's got a vaccine should be afraid of someone who doesn't? It makes no sense.
How can we turn it around, in short, because of time here? How can we turn that around? How can people overcome the fear and take back their lives?
People need to think. People need to think, and they need to re-embrace their own basic humanity and empathy and compassion.
Yeah.
And stop seeing everybody else as a threat. Again, that's not how it was before.
Yeah.
So,
that's right. It wasn't.
It was never like that before.
That's right.
I'm always intrigued when people start behaving in a way or believing things which just not long ago at all they never believed in and they never advocated for.